Got it up.
This is Travis Robbins, Dan, and Nick from the Physical Resilience Outlook. So today we're going to talk about farmers carry. Farmers carry, when we were going through and picking the 10 tests that we wanted to do, I think this is one of the best ones. Maybe you guys have some favorites of these, but
This is my favorite.
oh wow, okay. I didn't know before the recording, so that's good to know. So we're on the same page there. So we're going to talk about the importance of this and why you should think it is important. So, what is the farmer's carry? Nick, since you're so excited, why don't you tell us what a farmer's carry is?
Pick up something heavy in each hand and walk with it for a while.
That's pretty much it. It's the shortest description of what it is, and it's extremely accurate. In our test, we look for you to go for 100 yards with 50% of your body weight in each hand. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you're picking up 100 pounds in each hand and walking 100 yards with it. If you can do that, then you're really good at a farmer's carry. If you can't, then we'll talk about why that might be important to you. So as always, if you have pain with this motion anywhere in your body, this is one of our, a lot of them are full body movements, but for sure you're using pretty much, lower and upper extremities. So if you have any pain with that, then you can't do it anymore. But common errors in execution of this movement, Dan, why don't you take that one? How are people going to not do this test as successfully as we want them to?
With this one, really the only thing you're going to see is like terrible posture. Basically, if the weight's too heavy, they're going to be too far leaned forward or bent to one side, or just not able to pick up the weights and hold it without dropping it.
Yeah, if you have injuries on one side, there might be some compensation there. Once you load up your body with that amount of weight, weakness is going to be found. So again, you can do it with as poor posture and kind of look as long as you're having pain, and we won't stop you. But yeah, those are common issues. You want to try to, well, I don't know, Nick, if you were going to instruct somebody on how to do this, aside from the very simple instructions that you gave at the beginning, are there any tips that you would give them to try to be successful in this movement?
To me, it again, like kind of what Dana said with posture, and I think people think of that though just purely from the shoulders. The other thing with this one also is the head posture. So making sure to just not jut that head forward a lot. But that is also for two reasons. Well, you're probably going to hurt your neck if you do that. But the other thing is, if you do that, you're probably going to close down on some of the joints, which close down on the nerves, and don't let your hands actually work as strong as they should.
Yeah, that's a good point. So am I correct in saying this, Dan, that we have not decreased the weight in order to get a perfect score in this based on your age? So no matter what age you are, you're expected to put half of your weight in each hand?
Yeah, so this one doesn't go down as much with age. You can test with less weight, you just won't be able to max out the score. But grip strength is something that doesn't really, you don't see as much of a decrease with aging.
Yeah. So this is, we've talked about this in the past with some of the other tests that we have done, but grip strength has been strongly correlated with improved longevity, ability to live longer and live better. Well, we always talk about if that's is the case, we just give our patients or friends and family members grip strength exercises. They can just sit on their couch and like do captains of crunch and they're going to live longer. That's not really what this is. What it is that someone that has a high grip strength or very strong hands is typically doing other things in their day that is leading to that. So if the farmer's carry is something that you're very good at, there's a very good likelihood that you're lifting up heavy things during the day. If you are not as good at this, it's probably because you're not lifting up heavy things. That might be the most straightforward thing I've said on all these podcasts, but that's pretty much what it is. So, Nick, let's talk about why this is important. So we've explained grip strength can lead to longer life and better quality life as you age, but more specifically, if someone is not good at this test, what kind of problems might that lead to?
Well, I think other things that are a little besides the obvious you just kind of pointed out there, foot speed is actually a big thing with this, because the faster you can move your feet, the shorter period you have to hold on to that for. So to me, that's one thing that's actually overlooked in this. But then just we're not talking about just the carrying things, but actually having to pick it up. Like it's a fairly heavy weight that you also just have to work on, hey, bending down with proper form and standing up, which these are just really just practical movements. I mean, anytime you're carrying stuff around the yard, around the house, this kind of comes into play.
Yeah. And why do people lose this as they age, Dan?
Like most of our tests we do, it's just kind of use it or lose it. People stop being as active, stop lifting. I know like it's called a farmer's carry, but like farmers have to lift hay bales and they're usually going well into their 60s, 70s, 80s. They're still doing that stuff. And that's why they don't lose that ability.
So speaking from experience, really hard to carry a hay bale in each hand. You can do it. You end up gumming up your knees. I think more like buckets of milk. I think that's what maybe this is where it originated. So 5 gallon buckets of milk. So a gallon of milk is about 8 pounds, 5 gallons. If you're doing that a lot of times during the day, you're usually pretty good at that, and you can probably carry more if you needed to. If you're not good at this as you age, I think again it just speaks to resilience. I'm just convinced that if you can pick up something heavy and walk with it, you're just going to live longer than someone who can't. And you're going to be more functional as you do it. You'll tend to narrow activity less as you get older. I'm sure people that are listening to this have either heard somebody say this or this is them their kind of philosophy on things. Well, I'm old now, so I don't pick up heavy things. Or maybe they've been told by a medical professional, hey, just you're going to avoid lifting anything more than 10 pounds, which there's few things that break my heart more than having a patient tell me they were told that like 15 years ago. If you are told that, then you're just going to be less resilient as you get older. So equipment needed. This is kind of one of the more equipment heavy movements that we do, although there are ways that you can get around not having very specific equipment that we have in the clinic. But Nick, what kind of equipment are people going to need if they want to do this at home without help of a physical therapist via supervision or equipment?
So you're saying without equipment, excuse me?
If they don't have, so what I'm talking about is we have specific handles that we
Right,
can load
right.
up with weight at our offices, which are super convenient. They're not that expensive, so I would encourage you to get them if this is something you're really invested in. It's certainly a lot cheaper than like a year-long gym membership. It's cheaper than some other things that you can buy, like going to the movies probably and getting dinner. But what kind of equipment, if they don't have that special equipment, that will, if you're watching this, I'll post information about what that is exactly because it's probably a little confusing as we talk about it. But let's just say they're at home or maybe like a hardware store. What are some things that they could get to do this test?
So the easiest, probably cheapest thing are just if you have some empty gallon jugs, milk, water, whatever, start with that, right? There's 8 pounds in each hand. But then as you progress from there, I mean, using some, you can always get some dumbbells or some kettlebells if you already have, that's great. If not, those are still things that are relatively inexpensive to get. And then as we've talked about, there's a lot of other uses that will prescribe with those things. But then, as you said before, buckets, right? Buckets filled up with a little bit of either water, I mean, sand, stone, a lot. Like you can change the weight just depending on what you're putting in them.
Yep, so 5 gallon buckets work great. You can get those at Home Depot for a couple bucks. Or Lowe's. I don't want we're taking sponsorship from anybody
Or your
that
local hardware
or
store.
your local hardware store, Ace Hardware. I like to go to my Ace Hardware, so let's cover all the bases. So yeah, buckets. I don't think I've not had someone run into the problem where they put something so heavy in the bucket that the handle would break, but you probably could get up there. Certainly, they're designed to be filled with water because you buy gallons of paint in those containers and they have the wire handle, so you should be safe with that. But if you put anything heavy in there, you might have to reinforce it. But yeah, that's going to be the things that you would need. So we don't want people opting out of trying this because I don't really have kettlebells or I don't have dumbbells that go up that high. There's
Grocery bags.
There you go. Grocery bags. You can load up a lot. I've carried some pretty heavy grocery bags in for that. So, yeah. So whatever you can pick up, and certainly if you're on the lower end of this, is just if this is a new activity for you, then you're not going to need as much weight. The point is that you kind of test out where you're at and you improve as you go. So, Dan, let's take what does your score mean? This might seem fairly obvious, but we'll go through it. If you cannot carry half of your body weight in each hand for 100 yards, let's say you went to pick that up and it was like, I can't even pick that up. And then you regress that down to, let's say we took half of my body weight. So if I weigh 200 pounds, 100 pounds, I put 50 pounds in each hand, but I'm still can't get through the 100 yards of doing that. Then what would that tell me?
Yeah, it depends kind of where you feel yourself giving out during the test. If like you're okay hanging on to it, it's probably not like a grip issue as much as like a general muscular endurance issue, maybe a leg strength issue. If you find the weight or the objects just kind of slipping out of your hand and that's what's making you stop, then you might need some more grip specific work.
Okay. And since we're there and you did the programming, you can speak to programming for that. So if you guys remember, refer to our podcast before, there's basically 3 tiers of scoring. There's a bottom tier, so 0 to 3, a middle tier, so that's 4 to 6, and then no, 4 to 7, and then a high tier, which is 8 and above. You're going to get different programming to improve on this test based on where you're at. So let's start kind of in the lower tier. Dan, like what are some things that people can do to improve their test aside from just picking up buckets and walking with them?
Yeah, this is probably one of the tests that the test itself is probably the best way to get better at it. If like the main issue is picking it up off the ground, you might do some like kind of deadlift or squatting activity just to get used to that bending and lifting with the legs. If your grip's giving out, you're probably going to do more like upper body strength stuff. You could do hanging, cover the other test as well. Or just, yeah, find a weight you can pick up, hold it for 30 seconds to a minute, and just build up the strength and endurance there.
Got it. All right, Nick, let's give the sales pitch on getting better at this movement. If people actually do work on it, what are kind of the, we don't love the word functional because it's kind of overused in physical therapy, but what are some kinds of improvements in function that people would expect to see if they improve their score, stuff around the house, every daily living stuff?
So something that's actually sounds even more simple to that to me is just posture. Like if you're doing this right, this can actually greatly improve your posture. So that sounds a little short-sighted, I think, or overlooked. But now that can be a lot of times, hey, as we're sitting here talking, like just being able to hold a good upright posture can be part of that, right? But then where we're talking, hey, you can use grocery bags. Well, it's going to be easier bringing stuff in from the car when you go grocery shopping. It's going to be easier. Hey, if you're picking up kids, picking up animals, like anything like that, that you have to move around, just moving stuff around your house overall or around the yard, dragging tree branches, all those things now just become much easier to do as you get stronger walking with weight.
Yeah, I would argue it's going to help you out with just your general walking too. Like if people are doing walking programs and they are having issues either with pain or endurance, getting better at carrying weight while walking, I think will obviously improve the muscles that you need to do the walking, and you'll see an improvement in your endurance ability to go longer, which is going to be better for your overall health. So that will help as well. Dan, anything additional to add to that?
No.
All right. Well, that is your farmer's carry. Hope we've given a compelling argument to get you interested in improving your score there. And yeah, as we said at the top of the podcast, one of my favorite movements. It's definitely Nick's favorite one. Dan, he reserves his opinions on things. He might like it, but you have to kind of look at his face to figure out. But I do think that when you look at these movements, man, if you can pick up a lot of weight and walk a distance with it, I think that will affect a lot of other things in terms of your general health and your ability to successfully age. So, all right, that's it for today. And as always, at the end, Dan, what do we say?
Here's to better health through better understanding.
He did it. Oh, Nick, you got to get the next one. All right, guys, thanks for your time. We'll see you later.